morning. One more time. Good morning. I know we're getting there. We're getting close to lunch. As Chris said, I'm Eric from Smart Energy Water. We work with utilities and cities around the world to help in this digital transformation, ultimately trying to result in delightful customer experiences. And when the Z-Prime team called and talked about the theme, love, for the conference this year, you know, that's a pretty fun topic, right? Because love means a lot of things. I've heard a couple of people on panels talk about their definition of love. You know, I love my wife and kids, but I also love Texas barbecue in different ways, right? They're both love, but love is a different thing. And so we're gonna talk about this idea of how can you love what you don't know? Do you have a relationship, as Steve Wesley was talking about before, between the customer and the utilities? First, we gotta get a little humor out of the way. I think probably some of the utility folks in the room can relate, right? For our customers to love us, we have to deliver those outstanding experiences. And you know what? They don't care how we make sausage in the back room. They don't care whether you're running an SAP or some ancient customer one. Am I cutting out? It feels like I'm cutting out. Some ancient Anderson customer one software system. They know that. All right. Is it just me? He's saying, how about we go Bob Barker style? How about that? Maybe better. Customer happiness is not a department within your organization. Customer satisfaction, customer happiness is a state of mind, right? And it's an organizational mission, and it's part of a transition that so many of the utilities that have gotten up on stage have talked about how they're going. So from SEW perspective, and we're gonna talk about throughout yesterday, this morning, and on through the rest of the conference, I'm sure there are gonna be lots of discussions about some of the cool things that are happening in the industry. And at SEW, I mean, I love all this stuff, right? Electric vehicles, distributed energy resources, the impact that batteries are gonna have. This is great, and the evidence that we know from not only the utility market, but from other markets is pretty overwhelming. People will pay a premium for premium customer experience. I feel like if I touch something, I'm gonna shock somebody along the way. So it's awesome. All of these things that are talked about, all the technology innovation, all of the new sources and the new ways to manage and use energy, electricity, gas, water in a different domain are cool, but we have a problem. If we don't get the customer to be a full participant in this conversation, we're going to be hard-pressed to drive the adoption at the pace that we want to adopt. So I would argue that the starting point today is that we really don't have a relationship between energy providers and their customers. Steve alluded to this, Steve Wesley, in his comments. You know, maybe you talk once a month, and that's sending a bill, and that's not a very happy conversation. And so we've got to find a way to rebuild that relationship in a different way. And the reason that's important is in the utility world, over the course of the last 50 years, not having a relationship was actually kind of winning, right? If the power or the gas or the water turned on when you came home, and you sent somebody a bill and they paid the bill, you declared victory, right? That was winning because you drove your costs down, your call center costs were falling, and your customer service costs were in line, and that felt pretty good. We called the people on the other side of the meter ratepayers, or sometimes just load on the system, right? And so that's all changing, and we've talked about this. You've heard all of the utilities set up say, hey, I've gotten religion, I get the message. New market models, utilities are gonna become platforms, utilities are gonna become service providers. McKinsey is one of the many firms that's done a bunch of research, and they tell us a pretty interesting number. 70% of all buying decisions are based on how I feel about the person I'm buying it for. Now, I said feel, and I underlined that, verbally, you probably picked that up, on purpose, because it's not what I think, right? Think is a fact-based thing. I can think something, I can be factually wrong. But if I feel it, that's more guttural. And so how do the utility customers today feel about the utility? I'm gonna argue if they don't know you, if the only relationship they have is that once a month meter read, they're not gonna feel very good. Now this may sound like a futuristic thing that's got some long tail to it. We don't think so. This is happening today. And so how do we get there? How do we get to this place where we have a relationship with our customers, where we're trusted to sell them extra things, to provide value add behind the commodities? Well, the first piece is to start with the basic. And these are what we call table stakes, right? This is getting the customer past the I don't hate you anymore. Or maybe I don't mind doing business with you. Right? Now that's not a terribly high bar, but if we can't get people to that, then we don't have much of a chance of moving beyond that. So how do we do that? Well, we make it easy to do business. We provide some reliability in our products, and we provide transparency in our dealings. And if we do those things, we've got a pretty good starting point. We're fortunate that we have some utilities here, Austin Energy, CPS, utilities, SMUD that are gonna come up next. These are people who have already demonstrated this works. These are people who do this part really, really well. And so their starting point is to have a trusted relationship between their customers, which has allowed them to move further up the food chain. And that's, so think of it as the table stakes buy us the right to move up to value add. It gives us some present value. It allows us to engage the customer didn't have before. We know that customers who are what are considered fully engaged customers pay a 23% premium in terms of share, or represent a 23% premium in terms of share of wallet and profitability. So when you build the relationship, you put yourself into a position to transform to the new economy. So what does that mean? A line that we've heard in some of the talks yesterday and some of the talks today is we have to meet the customer where they are. Now, customer complaints are not a new thing. Our team found that. I thought that was great. 4,000-year-old customer complaint etched in stone left on the doorstep, right? Saying, you suck. So this isn't something that's new. And people actually don't expect you to be perfect. They just expect you to be transparent and to provide clarity. So where we meet the customer, when we say meet the customer where they are, that it's not a physical place. For those of you that were in the meetings yesterday, we mentioned this. This is a virtualized thing. This is mobile. This is electronic. This is internet-based. It's voice and it's in real time. We don't set these expectations, by the way. This is not something that the people within this room are dictating the agenda on. These expectations are being set with the customer by Google and Apple and all of the other technology companies around you, Amazon and others, because that's the way they operate. People look at you and say, why can't you operate that way? 86% of customers pay more for something that they consider a better experience, but what percentage of customers believe that their provider meets those expectations? It's like an error. I had to look it up 3 times, 1%. 99% of people are a little bit disappointed at least some of the time, right? So we've got work to do. And the crazy thing, as we talk about meeting the customer where they are and giving customers what they want, is that the number one thing that comes is self-service. It's kind of bizarre if you think about it. The one way to engage in a dialogue and in a conversation with your customer is to not actually talk with them. Right? It just kind of seems weird, right? But that's what they want. If I can't resolve my problem myself, then I'm frustrated before I even find out what the content of the discussion is going to be about. Anybody pay their taxes yesterday? Yep, so I did too. Did anybody call the IRS to talk about it? Right? Did anybody go to the IRS office to pay their bill? Did anybody use the electronic payment functions for paying your taxes online? Dead easy. Could not have been easier. If that's the bar, folks, we have to be at least as good as the IRS. We've got work to do. Quick other example. Anybody here use Uber or Lyft? Anybody ever try to call either of those companies? It is nearly impossible. And yet we use the product and we love the product. So what else does that mean? It's not just self-service, it's engaging customers the way that they are used to being engaged in their other parts of their world. So today, a utility, you accept a check, maybe you accept credit card payments. Other people let you pay by voice, let you pay by Venmo, let you pay by Apple Pay, let you pay by Bitcoin. Yeah, I live in San Francisco. Most utilities today have customer service reps. Only now are we seeing the emergence of chatbots and AI as a way to actually anticipate the customer's needs. Every other technology provider that you use uses these products. And then from a communications channel, today we're sending people letters, maybe an email, we call them. But what customers expect today is that omni-channel, real-time communications model. Bill stuffers are not the answer, and nobody reads them. Sorry for anybody in the room whose job it is to write the bill stuffer. We consume our information today in tiny little nuggets, in tweets and in 100-byte messages, in small texts. So if you want to engage the customer, that's the way you do it. It was great to hear on, I think it was Steve also that mentioned, one utility that's touching the customer 4 to 8 times a day. That seemed a little over the top to me, but it's directionally more correct. Now, what does this mean in terms of disruption? I'm going to use a non-utility example, and I hope that's okay. So, anybody hear about the Apple credit card? Yes, you've heard about it, it's come out. So, talk about compressing time. 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago actually, it'll be 10 years next month, this thing called the iPhone was introduced. That's how old the iPhone is, right? And it was pretty cool because it was a phone, but it was a kind of a roaming computer, and maybe you kept your music on it, and that was pretty slick. It was easy to use, it became our go-to gadget. How many years ago did Apple Pay come into the market? Anyone? Anyone? Feels like it's been around forever? Less than 2 years. Less than 2 years ago, Apple Pay came in, and that was even pretty, that was pretty cool, right? It's like on my phone, and I don't need to carry my credit card, and it's right there. I can imagine, I wasn't there, I can imagine Apple's pitch to all of the credit card companies. Hey, I'm not competing with you. I'm helping to facilitate the use of your product. Isn't this awesome? Aren't I a good guy? And now we have disruption, major disruption. And Steve hit it on the head in his talk. Who owns the customer relationship? And it could be credit cards and payments, it could be EVs and storage. But the number one driver is you have to own the customer relationship. So how do we rebuild the love? Right? Well, it starts with the basics. Let's meet the customer where they are. Let's give them basic things within the current product lineup that we offer today. Are there pricing options? Is there clarity and transparency? Do I know what I'm getting for what I'm paying? Can we do the little things that our panel yesterday talked about? Can I let people prepay or pay on a weekly basis if that meets them where they are? It costs you nothing. Technology tools are available today that can let you implement this level of functionality and do it for probably less money than you spend today. So this is not a case of, geez, can I go to the CFO and get the budget to make it happen? Starting down the path to create this future platform is available today. And if we get there, we'll feel the love, right? Aww. and engage in a conversation that will bud into this broader relationship between our clients and our utilities that will help accelerate the adoption of clean energy. And with that, I have flashing red lights. Thank you very much.